So I didn't mean to actually go live with this, but since it went live, let's do it anyways. I was trying to record a video for the it's SPAD, it's My Trees group, or it's really a group she invited us all to be part of, and it's the group for stress and prevention of anxiety. So it's SPAT, and the idea is that I wanted to talk about Bill Hanlon. He's a pioneer in this idea of solution-oriented therapy. I'm taking one of his classes. He's got an online class, and it emphasizes this concept that was really made famous by Milton Erickson, that we might actually have not only the problem within us, but the solution to our problems. And if we can identify and harness the strengths and the resources that we have, that we can make a huge impact on the quality of our life. So that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about. And sometimes you hear about like positive psychology, and I've heard the term toxic positivity. I think what is toxic is only when people are inauthentic, when they're being positive in the face of something that is not real. It that inauthenticity, that falseness, the fakeness is what is toxic. But positivity in itself isn't necessarily something that could ever be toxic. They always say that too much of anything is not a good thing. But hope is something that I do believe can be the medicine for so many things that are going wrong in our life. If you can think of something positive, it's hard to bring in something negative and have those coexist, right? If you have a memory of something that really lifts your heart, that is a beautiful experience, a positive memory, it's hard to be depressed, or it's hard to think about what's wrong when you're re-experiencing that amazing experience. And the same is true the other way around. When you are solely focused on what's wrong in your life, when everything is going south, it's hard to think of times that are happy. It's hard to think of times that are good. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, was this idea that if we can tap into that possibility, that energy of what works for us, it can have a huge impact on our lives. So let's think about the strengths that we have. And my invitation to you is to consider, what is a memory that you have where you felt empowered, where you felt good, secure, where you're in that place of peace, where you were just good enough to be yourself without any judgment, accepting life as it was. And it can be as simple as remembering maybe the sunlight on your face, or a walk in nature, or just a time of peace. The idea is, if you can remember what it is that brings you joy, something that you like to do, that you can find yourself immersed in, where you can lose track of time. Often, the very answer to our challenges lies within that space. When I listened to the introduction to Bill O'Hanlon talking about this idea of solution-oriented therapy, where this started was a client came in to the practice that he was part of, and he was just beginning. He didn't have a lot of clients himself, and the client was actually someone that had saw an existing psychotherapist that was there at the practice. But when they were looking for her file, she came in to see somebody because she was having a panic attack. She was having a crisis in the moment, and they couldn't find her file. And so Bill didn't have any idea of what was talked about in the past. And he asked her this simple question. Since, you have found relief and you keep coming back to the practice, what's worked for you? That simple question of asking what has worked allowed her to tap into this thought process of realizing that when she came in, she talked about how she was feeling. she was able to categorize and kind of make sense of that experience. And by sharing it, by talking about it, by moving the focus to other things that were positive in her life, those feelings of depression or sadness, those feelings of stress, they started to dissipate. And she shared the story that she always felt better when she left. The more that they talked about what worked, the more she realized that she actually knew how to solve the very problem that she had by just managing her own emotions to take herself through this process of what worked for her. Well, it wasn't probably a week or two later that the existing psychotherapist came back and saw in the notes that, one of her clients had come in. And so she reached out just to check in to see how things are going. And the client said, everything is great. I feel really good. And the psychotherapist suggested that she come in for just for a recap and just to check in on how things are going. And the client said, no, I think I'm okay. I think I've got it. And then a month went by and the psychotherapist called again. And the client said kind of the same thing. And every month after that, the psychotherapist would call and strongly suggesting that she come in for another visit because she'd been coming to the practice for years. And the client said, no, I'm doing really, really well. And about a year into it, the psychotherapist said, oh, it's been way too long. You really need to come in. And the client got a little upset and said, no, I am fine. And please don't, be so forceful in your need for me to come in. I am doing really well, and I think I've got the answer. It was this idea that she found what worked for her. And what worked for her was realizing that when she thought about the things that caused her difficulty, she could tend to get caught in this loop of thoughts and emotions. But when she thought about the things that brought her strength and joy, the positivities, she realized that she could get better at those things with practice. And so that was the foundation and the basis of this solution-oriented therapy. And Bill's gone on to write over 30 books. So the main thing that I'd like to share with you is it's this presupposition or this idea that within you, even if you're dealing with stress or anxiety or depression, that there is also a possibility for something else. I mean, even in my own life, 7 years ago, I was in a place of absolute chaos. I might have been living with a narcissist because I was carrying around a tape recorder to prove that what was being said and the switch, the shift of fault, of blame, of saying that things happened that didn't happen, or saying that things were said that weren't said. I was actually going around trying to prove that, what I heard was real. My belief of what I experienced was real, and the tape recorder proved that that was real for me. And that it also proved that my partner was very fluid in her perception of truth, her perception of speech. And what I realized later on is that was very destabilizing. And even though we can't even give any reason to why she did what she did, but the important thing is that we can gain control over our own human experience. And for me, back 7 years ago, I just wanted one thing. I wanted to be happy. And surprisingly, I didn't even know what happiness was. As we move forward in time, not only am I happy now, but I have these moments where I feel connected, I feel encouraged, I feel strengthened, and I have moments of bliss, of just absolute connection and just a lovely experience. It took a shift of where my focus is. It took a shift of letting go of the things that really just drained me and realizing that sometimes things don't make sense. And if we can let go of those things that don't make sense, and focus on those things that give us peace and security, those things that lift our spirits, we can actually have a better life. So I hope this helps. I hope this gives you a little bit of encouragement. If you would like to reach out and have a conversation with me, I would love to just open up that dialogue. I hear that I'm easy to listen to. And what I meant to say there, that I'm easy to talk to. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for just being you. We are learning in this journey of life, and I promise you, with a little bit of focus, a little bit of shift, your wildest dreams can be made true.